So hi again. I don't know. So far, I think I'm actually doing a decent job at just winging this shit. I know I tend to ramble and pause quite a bit. Uh, I think this is going to be a pretty active 4 years for me, at least 4 years. I'm hoping not eight. For me, as far as YouTube videos go. And I know nobody's listening, nobody's paying attention. That's okay. I'm fine with that. I'm kind of used to it. It's here. It's here. Uh, I realize I'm probably just boring the fuck out of everybody, but yeah, I don't care. This is uh, me talking, expressing my opinions. Make of that what you will. This issue seems to come up fairly frequently among, well, as a response among conservative sources, uh, addressing the point a lot of us on my side of the political aisle are making. The question, obviously, is Trump comparable to Hitler? Short answer to that is kind of, yeah. Uh, Two things that I think we really need to realize is, one, every president, doesn't matter who, is going to get compared to Hitler by people on the opposing side. Uh, Conservatives were comparing Obama to Hitler. Uh, Democrats, liberals were comparing George W. Bush to Hitler, and I should note that I wasn't among them. I've been a liberal and identify more with Democrats uh, basically my entire adult life. But I'm not hysterical about it. I'm not one to compare someone to Hitler just because I disagree with them, and I never felt that George Bush was similar to Hitler. And I'm not even that passionate about calling Trump Hitler. He's just a lot closer to it than any president in recent history, in my opinion, and I'll explain why. Uh, the other important thing to notice is the important thing to realize is that when when you compare someone to Hitler, it's obviously dramatic, and people are going to criticize the comparison for that reason, for being dramatic. But the important thing to realize is that in the beginning, Hitler wasn't Hitler. Hitler it started out, pretty reasonable by all appearances. So that alone doesn't validate comparisons between any given individual and Hitler, but it means they can't be ruled out just because that person hasn't done anything as dramatic as what Hitler ended up doing. And with Trump, it's complicated. Because it's not so much Trump himself, and that brings me to something that's kind of fucking scary. It's not so much Trump himself, because for all of the stuff that I'm about to attribute to Trump, it's important to realize that none of the shit he's said and done is really his own fucking idea. To suggest that it is to give him credit for something else he didn't do, and I think we all know he doesn't need any fucking help with that. Because he did not, these sentiments did not originate with him. He just saw the opportunity, stepped in, and validated them. And it's impossible to really determine whether or not he actually believes what he's saying. Because he is, and whether or not those of you who support him want to believe it, he is a con man. He's exactly the type of person, he's good at reading an audience and knowing what they need to hear and what they want to hear. And that's something else, that's another quality he shares with Hitler, by the way. He's a con man. So he's telling his supporters what they want to hear, whether or not he believes it himself. But that's the scary thing, that so many fucking people want to hear that shit. It's unreal. Again, this didn't originate with Trump. The shit he's been saying, a lot of the more extreme conservatives have been saying it for years and years and years. So, you know, he got like about, what, 60 million votes, assuming just half of those were people who genuinely supported him and didn't just vote for him randomly or because they didn't like Hillary. That's 30 million potential Hitlers. I don't know. Should we feel better about that? Trump's not Hitler. It's 30 million potential lesser Hitlers. But real, why? So why am I making the comparison between Trump and give or take 30 million people who supported him? Why am I making a comparison between them and Hitler? Well, again, and Hitler, again, didn't start out as the Hitler we all know. His big selling point was that Germany had suffered a loss of dignity. He was coming in right after the Great Depression. That, you know, started in America and then expanded and affected the entire world. And Germany was hit really hard by it, especially after, you know, they lost World War I. And they were hit really hard by the Depression, and then they were suffering, they were desperate for answers. In comes Hitler, who, by the way, Hitler had, I don't know if he'd run for office before that, but he was on the political scene prior to that, and so were the rest of the Nazis, and really, nobody took him seriously. So, you know, another similarity between them and Trump, because Trump ran for president multiple times and he was always a big fucking joke. But his big selling point was that Germany had suffered a loss of dignity and he was going to restore German pride. You know, make Germany great again. And used the Jews as a scapegoat. And this is a troubling thing. I mean, Hitler really had to try to sell the German people on anti-Semitism, and believe it or not, they did not take very well to it. I believe he tried to organize a boycott of Jewish-owned businesses and had to call it off after a day because nobody fucking cared. They were like, no, we really don't have all that much hatred of the Jews. That's the important thing to realize. The German people were never really on board with it. If you listen, again, like I mentioned that dumbass Steven Crowder, you know, there are people like him who don't understand that and who have this false image in their head that really wouldn't help them identify a person who's comparable to Hitler, because they believe that Hitler just came in and said, hey, let's kill 6 million Jews. That is the exact opposite of what happened. He had to downplay his anti-Semitism because, again, he was good at knowing what people wanted to hear. Not a whole lot of people were really on board with the whole anti-Semitic thing, so he toned it down at first. And even up till the end, he carried out the Holocaust largely in secret. To the point where I believe to this day his name is not officially attached to any of the orders regarding it. He had to build these concentration camps and death camps out of the way in remote regions to keep it away from the German people, because they were never on board with it. And, because they were sane, you're not going to find a whole lot of public support for genocide. Hopefully. Again, I'm going to address this point about Trump supporters because, even the people who liked Hitler generally were not fans of his whole, blame the Jews for everything attitude. And unfortunately, I think that a lot of Trump supporters probably not all that much opposed to the idea of doing something like that to, say, Muslims. There are a lot of people out there who automatically equate the Islamic faith with terrorism. And that's just not accurate. Again, I'm not a fan of religion. I'm an atheist. I don't give a shit about religion. I think Christianity and Islam are just two different buckets of shit. But Islam is not synonymous with terrorism. And there are a lot of people who don't understand that. And that's frightening, because these same people would be fine with mass murder of Muslims. So, you've got this leader who comes in, says, we've lost dignity, we're struggling, I'm going to make us great again. And what's the problem? Well, scapegoats. And again, that's what I'm saying. This is a little bit complicated, because Trump came in and didn't introduce those ideas, just validated them. Let me give you a few facts regarding illegal immigration and refugees from the Middle East. We'll start with illegal immigration. You would be hard-pressed to find a word I'm looking for here, impartial expert who would rate the impact of illegal immigration as significantly negative in any way. Most experts generally rate the impact of illegal immigration on the economy overall and as neutral to slightly good, believe it or not. But in any case, it's not a substantial negative impact on us in any way at all. In addition to that, statistically, because a lot of people are worried about illegal immigrants being violent criminals now, for whatever the fuck reason, again, Trump kind of popularized the idea, but it existed before he came on the scene. Statistically, illegal immigrants, other than the fact that they're here illegally, are more law-abiding than citizens. You have less to fear from them than you do from your fellow Americans. So there's no logical, rational reason to have any hatred toward illegal immigrants, other than just either xenophobia, racism, or pettiness, because they're not hurting you. I know they're here illegally, but for fuck's sake, have you driven and sped at all in the last 10 days? There, you broke the law. You didn't hurt anyone though, so who gives a fuck? And it's the same thing with this. You think they're taking jobs, or they're doing shit that our own people don't fucking want to do. For the most part, all in all, they're not causing any harm. There's no reason to despise them so much. So that's illegal immigrants. Refugees. The fucking narratives about the refugees. I can't... to begin? We've taken in about 1 million refugees from the Middle East in the last 15 years. 1 million. That's 1,000,000. One with 6 zeros behind it. 1 million. Three have been charged with terrorist-related activities. None of whom were planning an attack in this country. 3 out of 1 million. Have you seen the statistics or statistics floating around on the web? You have an exponentially higher chance of being shot by a toddler in this country than you do of being killed by a refugee from the Middle East. It's staggering. And we're repeatedly told by Trump that we have no way of vetting these people. That's false. That is 100% false. There's an intensive process in place that takes upwards of 2 years. It's extensive and it's proven very reliable. We screen them. They're not terrorists. You don't have to worry about it. We've taken in 1 million. Nothing happened. Nothing. So you've got illegal immigrants who you have no reason to be pissed at. We have refugees who you have no reason to fear. Yet there's this whole dialogue, this whole narrative that insists that we should hate and fear illegal immigrants and refugees. And they're the problems and they're the threats. And they're fucking not. There is absolutely no evidence whatsoever supporting that position. But those, and they're vulnerable groups. They're vulnerable groups, and they're being vilified. That is comparable to Hitler. It's not exactly Hitler. It's not Hitler at his worst, but Hitler wasn't Hitler at his worst until like 5 years into his reign. What I'm saying is it's concerning. So, yeah, and the thing about that that's frightening is, again, Trump did not introduce those ideas. They were already here. He just stepped in and made people, like the dumbest 20% of our country who actually believe those things, feel validated. And now he's... Trump, you can fact check. There are sites that fact check like Trump's claims and a lot of other people's claims. And his accuracy rating is around like 30%, and he's got the nerve to call reputable news organizations fake news. Like, he's crafting an alternate reality, or helping to craft it, because, like, let's face it, his supporters are doing it for him. That's the thing that's fucked up. You're doing it for him. You're not a resident of reality. You have, like, literally no idea what the fuck a fact is, or what the word fake means. It's the whole, during the election, same thing. You can go through all the shit, all the reasons people had for hating Hillary so much. False, false, false. Go through them all. I've done it. I've got a LiveJournal article up here somewhere just going through all of the allegations. False, false, false. All of it. Why did you believe it? The internet is right there. You saw it on the internet. Go to fucking Snopes. Is Trump comparable to Hitler? Yes, kind of. What's more concerning is that, again, Hitler introduced the ideas that he had. And people were hesitant to accept his ideas, those ideas. Whereas with Trump, people had those ideas and that behavior on their own, and he just kind of came in and cheered them on, and that's what they're responding to. The guy just came in and mirrored back their bullshit to him and said, yeah, you're right, and they fucking ate that up. You're not right. None of that is right. Look up the information, inform and educate yourself. It's incorrect. We don't need a wall. We're going to waste money on a wall. We don't need the wall. Are you fucking stupid? Huh. So, I'm making this point so I can make this point. Because again, I'm a sucker for it. I need to stop. A video will show up on my YouTube feed, and like a fucking, like I've never seen it before. Like I don't know what to expect, and I'll click on it and go, ooh, this should be entertaining. Click, and it's some fucking idiot like Crowder or Tucker Carlson, who I just found out about the other day, who was a source of endless entertainment, because again, he's an idiot and a dick. So he's got a guy on who's comparing Trump to, I think comparing him to Hitler, saying he's similar to Hitler. And again, fucking Tucker's like just berating him for no reason, and getting the guy basically worked up, and then, you know, accusing him of not knowing what the hell he's talking about. But the thing that really irked me was when he asked the guy, we'll play the video, and he says something like the way the Democrats, he's talking about the way Democrats were responding to Trump's speech, that, you know, they could be heard groaning and you know, they were disrespectful, I guess is what we're supposed to take away from this. And he asks the guy something about when Trump said that illegal immigrants have harmed Americans, as in that's something that has happened, which, I mean, of course, I'm sure someone somewhere, you know, an illegal immigrant has harmed an American at some point. And asks him why it's a problem for Trump to say that. Why is it a problem for Trump to point that out? Play the clip.
Let me ask you a very discreet question about last night. So Trump gets up there and says, there are victims of crime by immigrants. And the second he says that, and there are, of course, I mean, there's really no dispute about that. Democrats in the chamber, members of Congress, all but boo him. They bark at him. They express verbally their displeasure. And my question is, why? Why is it offensive to note the truth that there actually are Americans who've been harmed and killed by immigrants? Why is that bad to note? And by the way, whose side are you on if you're offended by that?
No. But I can't. Hey, me from 5 minutes ago, you want to handle this? So you've got illegal immigrants who you have no reason to be pissed at. We have refugees who you have no reason to fear. Yet there's this whole dialogue, this whole narrative that insists that we should hate and fear illegal immigrants and refugees. That's why it's a problem. That's why it's a problem. That's why it's a fucking problem. He's not just mentioning a fact. He's making a point, you fucktard. He's making a point, and that point is to characterize immigrants as violent criminals. That's why it's a problem. That is, and you want to know why he's being compared to Hitler? Because that, idiot. Are you that dumb? I don't, like, even if you don't agree, can you understand that, like, that's what our problem is with him saying that? He's intentionally characterizing immigrants as violent criminals. That's why it's a problem. I think I'm done. I pretty well covered this. Goodbye, everybody.